Okay, two things today. One is I have a brochure I want to share with you, but also I want to talk a little bit about olive oil. I've been listening to some information about olive oil, and it's such a wonderful food to incorporate in your diet if you're not already. And I do want to just share a few tips. One is because just like with so many topics related to nutrition, there's just so much confusion and contradictory information out there. And a lot of it, unfortunately, is just plain wrong. Some of it's not necessarily wrong, but misleading or confusing, and maybe applies to you and maybe it doesn't, depending on your body and what's going on with your systems, what works for you. But anyway, with olive oil, I know one thing that I have been confused about for a long time, um, until maybe a year or so ago, but whether or not it's okay to cook with olive oil, because you hear both things. But I have actually looked into this and listened to several different people who are quite the olive oil experts, and I have concluded for myself that yes, it is absolutely fine to cook with olive oil as long as you're not overheating it. So, and it's also, of course, wonderful straight from the bottle, drizzled or poured over things, or not heated is the things that basically degrade olive oil are heat. Yes, it's true. But that doesn't mean it ruins it. I'll give you some guidelines on the temperatures, but heat, air, and light, and time. So my tips uh, for choose, and the other thing with olive oil, as you may have heard by now, it is true that there is uh, fraud in some olive oil. In worst case scenarios, sometimes it's actually like not. It says on the bottle it's olive oil and it's only partially olive oil, and it's cut with other olive oils. So that happens sometimes. So the sourcing is important. But what also can happen is that it just might not be. It might be all olive oil, but it might not be quality. It might be kind of made from the dregs and have not the optimal quality of olives in there. And so in other words, if it's labeled extra virgin cold pressed, that may not be accurate. So some tips for choosing your olive oil, or well, first of all, going back to the cooking, the smoke point for olive oil apparently is 400 degrees. I stay well below that myself. In theory, maybe you could go up to that, but I stay well below that. 350 degrees-ish is about medium on the stove. When I cook with olive oil, I mostly stay under medium. But sometimes I go up to medium, and that's, going to be about 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and that is well below the smoke point for olive oil. And again, I tend to go for a little bit lower than medium when I'm cooking with olive oil. And I don't only cook with olive oil. I also use avocado oil, sometimes butter, coconut oil, but olive oil is the one I use the most. It is quite a healthy, wonderful oil, whether you're cooking with it or otherwise. And so things to look for when you're purchasing olive oil to make sure you're getting, it doesn't necessarily have to be the top quality olive oil. Of course, you can do that too, and they can get fairly expensive. But even there's a lot of, good quality, healthy olive oils out there. If you're looking for a few things, one, you want to get an olive oil that has a harvest date on the bottle, because you want to know when it was harvested, and you want it to be definitely less than 2 years old. Within about a year and if it can be less than a year, wonderful. But it'll last for about 2 years, and in good condition. Again, time is one of the things that degrades it, so you don't want to be using old olive oil. Um, Light is another thing that degrades it, so you want to look for a dark bottle. Ideally, I would recommend looking for a glass bottle. Um, but dark is important. And don't keep it out on your kitchen counter all the time. Keep it in a cupboard or someplace where it's not exposed to as minimal light as possible. You don't want to get light olive oil. That's going to tend to be have other non-olive oils added in there. You want extra virgin olive oil. It can be cold pressed or extracted. Uh, yeah, I think those are basically my tips. Let me know if you have other questions about olive oil. And I encourage you to use more of it if you're not already using it regularly. It's definitely a healthy thing to add into your diet. It's one of the key, if not possibly the number one key thing about the Mediterranean diet that makes the Mediterranean diet so wonderful, besides the fact that it's, whole foods, real foods. That's also key. Um, so that's about olive oil. And I wanted to also share, I have a brochure that I've made, and I would love help spreading um, spreading this around. So if you have, for example, maybe a chiropractor or a naturopath or a massage therapist, someplace that you think my brochure could be well appreciated. There's lots of ways that you can help me with this. If you are willing to do that, you can just connect with me by messenger, by email. My email is megan@wellnesswisdomforwomen.com. If you don't already know me, I'm Megan Aro, nutritional therapy practitioner, metabolic health practitioner. But yes, let me know if you have any ideas about being able to help me share this brochure and get it out there. Thank you for listening today, and I will share more next week, if not sooner, but at least every week. Look through here if for other past videos if you would like to do that now.